You had a discussion. But I'm not sure you haven't got this kind of opportunity so far. Directly communicate with Japanese people. What about Toya-san? Toya-san, hello.
Yes, Professor.
Yeah. So am I right? So you haven't got this kind of opportunities to directly talk with Japanese MBA students so far?
Yeah, to me, I think very rare.
Very rare, right? Yeah. And how was the discussion?
Yeah, I think it's excellent discussion. One thing that I found when we make small group with the Japanese investor or a Japanese student, we sometimes we don't have information to answer the question because we did not have the question before. I think if we have the question before, we can compare better answer for that. Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
Katya-san, are you there?
Yes, Professor, I'm here.
Okay, so on Saturday, so you had some nice advice from them, or you found something new?
Yeah, it sounds interesting for me. And it always make me happy when talking to Japanese people. I mean, I can observe some techniques or some tactics from them, like how to work, and time management or culture exchange. So those are important for us, and also I think it is quite excellent and experience for me as well. Yeah, thank you.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Because since you belongs to the LJI, right? So Laos Japan Institute. So I personally think we better have more chance for you to communicate with Japanese investors.
Yeah.
And someday we may be able to have a kind of business matching. We have more real investors, and then your side you also invite some more real business persons, and then it's going to be very interesting day for you. Okay. 藤岡先生、どう始めましょうか、今日は。
Yes. Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. Good evening.
Good evening, Professor.
Good evening. So I hope you have enjoyed the session with Japanese and also session with Taro-san. And if you want or not, but can we go back to the discussion on strategy? Is that okay?
Yes.
Right, but since we have spent more time on group work, right, than we planned before, because I thought maybe case discussion or reading for you to read a case, 3 cases might be too much. So we changed the plan. So we spend more time with group work as Taro-san initiated, and we reduce the case. So, but we have still haven't done the Lego case from 3 days ago. So, is it okay for me to continue a little bit more on the last part of Lego? If you remember, we talked briefly about the question, who are the customer, and we talked about the kids are customer, or parents are customer, or more importantly, maybe retailers, especially Walmart and Target, right? Rather than toy shop, becomes much more important and influential, right? So we tried to please to make retailers happy, right? We thought what kind of things we need to do, right? So to make retailers happy is different from make our kids or parents as a customer happy, right? It's slightly different. So for retailers, if you remember, what kind of things they are expecting from us? If you remember, they are not just expecting something like fancy toy, right? But what they want from us. If you want to make retailers happy, what kind of things they were expecting, if you remember?
Profit.
Yes, I think the margin and the margin also the
Yes, it's margin, right? Because they can put the product, right? Other than toy, they can put food, they can put some furniture, they can put other toys, they can put even dog food, right? So they are looking for some profits, right? At least some minimum acceptable profitability for them to sell their product on the shop, right? In the shop, right? And in order for us to understand the profitability for them, what kind of ratio do we need to focus on as a business professional? To make them profitable, it's easy to say, but what kind of indicators are they looking for? And do we need to manage as a key performance indicator, if you remember?
is that the inventory turn cost?
Yes, in inventory turnover, right?
Turnover,
this is
yes.
the one, how efficiently they can sell their product, right? So inventory turnover ratio tell us, right, those efficiency, right? What else? Inventory turnover and
New products can be new product. New product.
new product. Yes, new product is also important, but if we want to increase, right? If we want to manage their expectation, right? Retailer's expectation, what kind of ratio do we need to manage? And Tosan mentioned inventory turnover. Yes, inventory turnover is one of their key performance indicator, right? Any other ratio we have studied? That kind of ratio, it's not not that much familiar for many of you, I think, but as a business school student, this is quite a popular term. So if you are trained well at the business school, you know, more than profitability, more than return on equity, return on investment, but more specifically for retailers, what kind of ratio are they looking for? Do you still remember? Okay, so we can do it together. Okay, we can do it together. Okay, now, do you see my slide? Everyone can see my slide?
Yes.
Can see.
Okay, so we can just wrap up all together. So we have discussed who are our customers, how much does each buy from us, right? And which customer group are particularly important, especially important for us, right? So we need to set up the right question, right? This is not something like we can find right answer, but it depending right or wrong, depending on how we are going to define our customer, right? Same as we see a lot of pictures. Is this rabbit or is it sheep, right? Or is it fish or is it face already, right? We did that kind of exercise. It's same things when we apply 5 forces model. The important thing is how we define those key factors and which factors are we going to prioritize as most important factor. And how we define customer, for example, right? That kind of definition of customers will influence how we are going to approach to them. So if we define kids as a most important customer, then our 5 forces components could be different. But in this case, we defined retailers as the most important customer, right? So that we need to manage their expectation, right? So if we define retailers as customer, right? Who could be our substitute? Or what kind of threat we might need to face? If you remember, if our customers are kids, right? Our substitute could be online game, right? Or some other playing things for kids or some other toy makers' toy, right? But if we define our customers, right, as the retailers as our customers, what kind of substitute do we need to care of? Do you understand my question? Right? If we define kids as customers, children as customers, right? If they don't buy our toy, right, they're gonna choose another toy, maybe some the toy car or some kind of doll or video game, right, or board game, that kind of things, right? So they could be our potential substitute or competitors, right? But if we define retailers, big retailers like Walmart as a customer, then what kind of things could be our substitute or competitors?
Other toy company. Right?
Yes, other toy company as well.
Yes.
What else? What else?
Video game.
Video game, yes, of course. But if kids as a customer,
Yes.
they can switch to video game or they can switch to other toy product, right? Other makers' toy product. But if we define retailers, right? We want to sell our product to retailers.
Recording in progress.
Right? We want to sell our product to retailers. Right? What kind of things could be our substitute?
Maybe some cookie, chocolate.
Yes, that kind of thing, like cookie, chocolate, anything other things which can create more profit to us, right? It can be substitute because for them, it's not necessary Lego to be placed at their shop, right? If they can earn more by providing the space, right? It's good for retailers to sell that kind of profitable product, right? So this is the difference, right? From how we define, right, our barriers. Right? So it meaning that if you apply five forces model, the answer could be different, right? Depending on how you define customers. So this is how we use five forces model. So again, right, the answer is not out there in the world. Answer is not something on the textbook, right? Answer is depending on how you define each five factors. And if you change one factor, then other factors could be also changed. Right? This is how we use five forces model. Okay, and this is not written in the textbook, and this is not usually taught, right, at the school, unless you study at the business school. So I'm not sure how many of you got the point, but this is a very important point. So this is the reason why at Harvard Business School, University of Oxford, University of Cambridge, Yale University, MIT, they use this case as a core case when they study strategy. Okay. So right, we've decided retailers are the most important buyers, right? Then a lot of things, right, can be changed as I explained. So right, then right, I'm not sure if you still remember, right? We talked, right, if they were happy or not, right? And we found out they were frustrated by Lego product because they can sell very slowly comparing with other products, like maybe cookie, chocolate, or dog food. They can sell more quickly, right? And so, and also they have a lot of, out of stock, right? So even, they want to sell, right? A lot of kids want to buy, but, it often face difficulty because of they run out of product, right? And also their gross margin by selling Lego product is much lower than their average profitability, right? Average margin of selling product, right? If you look at this, right? Walmart 22.9, right? Target 33.6, Toys R Us 32.4, right? But Lego, by selling Lego, it's 19%, and they can turn over something like 2 point something times, right? Whereas other shops like Walmart and Target, right? Their average turnover ratio per year is 7.5 times and 6.0 times, right? So meaning that Lego product, they have less profitable comparing with other products like chocolate or some other things, and also turnover ratio is also low, right? So this is the reason why they are not that much happy. So if we want to make them happy, what do we need to do, right? The first thing is we can help them to promote our product, right? If we put a lot of advertisement, then more kids come to buy, so that inventory turnover might be increased a little bit, could be, right? And if we could reduce our production cost or distribution cost or other costs, right? Then we can provide a little bit more higher profitability for them, right? So if we become, right, more attractive product for retailers, then, right, they could buy more product from us, right? Because we have to manage their rising buying power of retailers. So we have to manage them, meaning that we have to adapt ourselves to make them happy, right? So, right, for us, what we need to manage is not something like customer satisfaction, because they are not B2C, right? B2B, right? So in order for us to improve, right, buyers' satisfaction, right, one of the indicator is so-called, do you remember we did this together before, right? Turnover ratio. So if we look at only profitability, it doesn't tell whether or not this is profitable product, right? So we also need to see the inventory, the size of inventory. Do you remember? Right. So for the retailer, right, what is important was this one, cross ratio. Do you remember? Have you recalled? Right. So cross ratio is calculated by gross margin. Right. This is percentage. When you say profitability, right, profitable product, right, you are talking about this gross margin. Multiple turnover ratio. How many times, right, we can sell, right? We can turn over the inventory, right? So this ratio is important, right, for the retailers. So if this ratio is high, meaning that this product is profitable for retailers, right? So if you remember, right, gross margin of product A is if 10%, right? If we aim to achieve the cross ratio of 200, right? What is the turnover ratio per month? This is what we have done, right? So 1.66 per month, right? So if, you know, if we talk with, you know, like Walmart or Target, and if they say, we set up key successful indicator as 200 gross margin ratio. If we ask how much gross margin ratio do you expect, right? And if our margin is like 19%, as suggested in the case, right? Then how much turnover ratio per month we have to help them, right? Something like that. So if, you know, we can specify 1.46 or 1.66, right? Then, right, our resource and concentration could be focused more on how we can sell, right, this product, how we can reduce those inventories as fast as possible, right? So that we can help more actual activities at their shops. For example, we can set up some kind of, small corner to promote Lego, right? We can send our employees to go to the shop, right? And, play with kids, something like that, so that they can help them to sell the product, right? For example, this is, just one example, right? And this is the ratio of gross profit to inventory investment. Right? So this is a Japanese case, right? So for supermarket, on average, right, ratio of gross profit to inventory investment, right, is on average 941.9%, and the gross profit, right, across the goods could be to 23.2, and turnover 40.6 times. Okay, so 3 point something times per month. This is average. Right? Drugstore is something like this. Bookstores is something like this. And the reason why I'm showing this, right, is this kind of numbers are essential as a business professional. Right? And if we don't know this kind of numbers, how we can give them advice? Right? We can just say profitable, right? Too attractive for the customers, to make customers happy, more to be customer oriented. This kind of things everyone can say, right? You don't need to study management at a business school, right? But business school professional, right? But the different, right, from them is you have more clear idea, right, with numbers, right? For example, if medical doctor, right, if you had a headache, right, and if you go to the medical doctor, right, and if you check your temperature, and if your temperature is like 39.2, is this high or low? 39.2, is it high or low?
High.
High.
It's
Yeah.
high,
Yeah.
right? It's high, right? But if I ask you, right, before showing this, right? Okay, if this is like department store, right? Our profitability, gross profitability is 18.9. Is it high or low?
I think low, maybe.
You think low? Why? Because you think low, right? So this is a right. So this is a problem of us. This is the problem of business school, right? If you go to medical doctor, right, to check, and if you got 39.2, and if we show this to the doctor, and doctor said, it could be high, and we said, oh, it's high. Why? Because I think it's high, right? Or if you show 36.2, and the doctor said, this could be high or this could be low. It depends. Sometimes it could be high, it could be low, but I don't know about that. It's depending on the situation, right? Then, do you trust that kind of medical doctor? No, right? But at the business school, we often use profit, right? Or return on equity, return on investment, but we don't know on average how much return on investment is good enough. Or on average, for example, retail or hotel industry, how many percent of the profitability, net profitability, is acceptable? Does anyone can answer? Or at our company on average, how many percent of net profitability on average? Do you know? Or how about the Japanese case, Japanese manufacturers, listed companies, right? How many percent of net profitability? If I have a manufacturing companies, right, in Laos, and if I said, okay, my company's, right, is a net profit, it's a bottom line of profitability, so 5%. 5%. Is it high or low? And if someone asked you, if you got MBA from Laos National University and studying with Professor Fujioka, so I want you to give me some advice. And my profitability 5%. How you are going to respond? Oh, it's very good, or it's so-so, or it's low. How are you going to answer?
To me, if 5% per year, right?
Yeah.
5% per year, I think it's a little bit low because
low.
If we take 5% divided into 12 months, we will get very low very low cross ratio.
Okay. It's good. How about others? How do you think?
Yes, for me.
Think,
yes.
Sorry, Mr. Panavut first.
For me, maybe I would say it's better. Maybe depend on the targets. Maybe they say
depending on target.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. Maybe they say
but if if it's same things, if you go to see medical doctor, right? It's depending on how much you want.
Yes.
38. If you want to 38, temperature 37 is still okay. 39 is a bit high. If your medical doctor say like this, is that good as a professional? This is a practice. This is just a practice, Yes. How about Kantari-san? Yes, you wanted to say something? Is it high or low or okay? Seoul Sunset is low, and Panawon Sunset, it's kind of okay.
My answer is I don't know high or low. I think it depends on what kind of business that you do.
It's a manufacturer.
Yes. Yes, I think that because my answer.
So, okay. Yes, thank you. So for example, same as Taro-san, right? He was in Tokyo last month, right? And when I saw him in Bangkok, right, his weight was 110 kilogram. 110 kilogram is 0.1 ton, right? So meaning that elephant is 1,000 kilogram. So 1/10 of elephant, right? So is that big or low? And the Taro-san's height is 173 centimeters. 75, okay. And 110 kilogram, is it big or low? 110 kilogram.
Low, right?
It's low. So you want to make him to eat more?
I think because only one elephant, right?
Only one elephant. Yes.
Oh, it's not massive.
So like this, if like weight, right? We know if 100, it's good to be a bit too heavy. But if 30 kilogram, it's too low. Something like this. We know that kind of things, right? We know on average, right, height and weight. But as a business professional, what we need to know at least is average, because profit is like our blood, right? For the people, right? If we don't have profit, if we don't have blood, we're gonna die. It's same things for companies. And we often talk about profitability, but we don't know how much profitability is good enough or on average for other companies or other countries. This is a problem about MBA or business school education. And so this is the reason why at worldwide nowadays we need international accreditation. So unless you receive degree from accredited business school, in the world they don't recognize us as an MBA. So one of the reasons is, this kind of things. I'm not saying which is good or bad, right? But at a business school, at least we know on average, manufacturers how much profitability is on average. I'm not saying good or bad, but on average. So for Japanese listed company is very large, companies. on average 3.8% of profitability. So if you know this number, right? If 5%, if we say our production in Laos, right? People could say, oh, it's hard. Right? But if we don't know anything about that, right? We cannot even react, oh, it's high or low, it depends how much your target. It's up to your target. Something like that. Right? So in order for us to avoid that kind of things, right? You don't need to memorize everything. But nowadays you have iPad, iPhone, right? So that kind of key indicators or information, you can put everything into your iPad. You don't need to memorize with your brain, right? You can iPad to remember, right? So this is how we work as professionally at a consulting meeting or like board member meeting sometimes, right? So for my case, all of those information is my computer and iPad. So whenever they are talking about profitability or growth ratio, right, I can just check how much is on average. Right? So that if they say now 7%, then I can say, 7% is quite high because on average, our growth ratio in Thailand is nowadays 3.89. Right? So this, you are growing more than that. And our inflation ratio is 3.2. So take into account inflation ratio. If something like this, if we answer, people say, oh, because he's a business school professor, right? So something like this, when you want to work with them as a professionally, you can put those kind of information in the iPad, right? And then whenever we talk, right? When you say good, right? In compare with what, right? If you think it's low, you compare with what, right? So you have objective indicators, right, within your hand, and then we can talk if good or bad. Right? So something like this, right, is very important. So this is the reason why I put, this kind of information in here. But this is Japanese case, right? So if it's Thai case, or if it is Singapore case, or Chinese case, it could be different depending on industry. Okay?
Professor, yeah.
Yes, please.
This point is depends on the standard ratio, right? You mean that, for example, the manufacturer industry, maybe the standard ratio of net profit is maybe 0.2 to 3.5 is an acceptable net profit ratio, right? For example, so if you ask 5% is high or low, then we will base on the standard profit margin, right?
Your question is, yes?
Yes, let me repeat again. Do you mean that to answer this question, 5% of net profit is high or low? Then we have to look at the standard ratio of that industry.
Yes,
right?
Not a standard, average in industry, for example.
Average.
Average in industry. There is no standard ratio.
Okay,
right?
Okay, I see.
There is no standard. That kind of things we don't have. But this is average in industry in Japanese companies, listed companies, right? So if comparing with that, right, if we are Japanese companies, if 5%, it looks okay. But if we are competing, for example, Chinese firm or Korean firm, then of course we have to compare with on average profitability of Chinese firm or Korean firm, right?
Yeah.
Because we are fighting each other in that case. If we are just competing within Japan, comparing with profitability on average in Japan, it is enough.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But it's depending on the situation. If we want to receive more investment, right, for our stock, right, then we have to manage their expectation, how much return they wish from us, right? So in that case, we have to make it sure, right, higher return on investment more than weighted average cost of capital. I'm not sure if you have studied this kind of terms. Have you studied finance? Not yet. Have you studied?
I think maybe we have studied, but sometimes we just focus
Because
on-
okay, I can just briefly explain because this is important. This is the basics of the business.
Yeah.
Right. That in order for us to continue business, right, we need a profitability, profit, right? And how much profit is enough for us to continue our business is because when we start business, right, we have to borrow money from bank usually, right? If we borrow money from bank, right, what do we need to do in return to the bank? What do bank expect from us? If they lend money for us, what do they expect from us?
Sorry.
They expect our business has profit, right?
Yes, but why they expect the cash? Because if we borrow like
Yes.
1 million baht from the bank, right? What do they expect?
Interest.
Yes, interest, right? If we borrow 1 million and if we return 1 million, they are not happy, or you have to pay interest, right? And so our profitability has to be more than the interest, right? Which we use the money. So one source of cash is coming from bank, for example. This is indirect financing, right? Through bank, right? So in that case, interest rate. Do you agree? Right? But if we are listed company, right? Our investors, individual investors, invest to our stock, right? Our stock, right? So what do they expect from us? Investors, banks expect interest for us to pay. How about investors? Why do they buy stock? Have you invested any stock? Actually, I invested, some of my cash to your stock exchange actually, long time ago. Right? When you open the stock exchange market 10 years ago, I'm not sure. I think only that day or 2 days later, I went there to invest. But why you invest to stock? What do you expect?
Profit from the stock.
Profit from stock. Yes, yes. What is a profit from stock? How we can make profit from stock? It's good. Yes, we are expecting profit from stock. It's good. Yes, right. And how we can make profit from the stock?
We have to analyze and is can invest or not invest.
But how do you decide whether or not you can invest to this stock?
If you have more money to long-term investment, or we are or our business not enough money to invest in long-term.
Yes, it's good. What else?
I would say that investor you get the profit from 2 ways, at least 2 ways. The first way is the divided end of year or end of each quarter, and the second is from the price of the stock is rise, or down.
Yes.
Yeah.
So actually, we have two main ways to make profit from the stock.
Yeah.
One is dividend. It's something like if we hold the stock, every year they pay, or twice a year they pay dividend, right?
Yeah.
So that dividend, right, has to be more than our interest received from the bank. Like if you save your cash in the bank, right, long term, how much your bank can give you now? How much interest you can get? If you put 1 million keep or 10 million keep, how much you can get? How many percent? 1%, 2%, now 2 point something percent in loans.
About 5 to 6%, Professor, for the
Five.
US and baht. For the Lao Kip, maybe more than 6% per year for the interest.
Oh, 6% is quite high.
But
Right.
the inflation rate is too high as well.
Yes, yes. But if you put your cash into bank, for example, every year they give you dokbia. I'm not sure if same pronunciation in Thai, but Thai, Pasa Thai, we say dokbia, right?
ลาวอันโซดอกเบี้ยอันโซ
Dokbia also. Yes, so dokbia how many? เท่าไหร่ dokbia ได้ไหมทุกปีเท่าไหร่ได้ไหมครับ
โดยประมาณ
ประมาณเท่าไหร่ครับ
50%
6%. Oh, it's a lot. It's a lot.
6 to 10% per year.
Really?
Yes, it depends on short term, long term, middle term, or long term for.
Oh, it's high.
Yeah.
Because now in Thailand, I think 1.something%, 1.5 at the most, right? If we put like 5 years or 10 years, right? And I think because I put some cash to your bank as well, and they give us like 2.8 or 3. Before they give us 4.5%, right? But meaning that, if your dividend is like 3%, right? In Japan, what we can receive from bank is 0.01%. It's very, very low, right? So if 3%, Japanese investors are happy because even if we put our money into bank, right, only 0.01, right? But if company give us 3%, we are happy. But if at last, if 3% is not enough, right? Because stock is more risky than putting your money into bank, right? So for the investors, we have to pay premium on the top of some basic interest. Right? So we use national bond. Do you know national bond? National bond, your country's bond, country's stock. Right?
Yes.
So it's like long term or like 5 years or 10 years, national bond percentage interest, right? Plus risk premium. Right? This is what we need to pay to them. So what I wanted to say is, right, in order for us to continue our business, right, we have to make profit, right, more than the cost of capital. Cost of capital means, right, cost of interest to bank, cost of dividend to the stockholders, right? This is in technical term what we say weighted average cost of capital. Okay, so if weighted average cost of capital is 4%, right, in order for us to sustain our business, we have to make it sure our return on investment has to be above 4.0%. Okay, this is very, very basic formula for us to run business. Okay, this is no exemption. Any kind of business are same. Okay, so if you are not listed companies, right, you have to make sure, right, your profitability is more than the interest to the bank. But if you are listed company, a little bit more complicated, right, because we have to pay, right, to make investors happy, shareholder happy, right? So cost of shareholders and cost of bank interest. Okay, so return on investment has to be above than that. And the stockholder, of course, another source of profit is stockholder by selling stock. Right, if your stock price increase, if they sell it, right, they can get some profit. This is what we call capital gain. Okay, so when you start running your business in charge of big company, right, you have to focus, right, for the shareholders profitability as well, not only making customers satisfied, to make customers satisfied, but also we need to make sure that our profitability can be above above is more than weighted average cost of capital. Okay. So that kind of things we have to think. Okay. Sorry, I spent maybe too long time on these numbers, but I think knowing this kind of things is very important. And maybe this might be your first time to listen, right? It sounds so difficult, right? What is weighted average cost of capital? It sounds difficult. However, if you continuously studying the business or opening textbook of MBA, for sure, anytime you will find this kind of term. Okay. Okay, but by taking some time, maybe eventually, right? I hope you start knowing about important concept. Okay. So in this session, right, I try to introduce some of the very important concepts to you as much as possible. Okay. But no need for you to understand, by listening in sudden, right? If you could understand, then no one need to study management. But if you want to know a little bit more, you can just write it down, those technical terms on your note, and you can Google it, right? So that you see, oh, this is a very common term. Everyone is talking by using that kind of term. Okay. So again, at the business school, what we say is, okay, this is profitable. Now 7.2% profitability is quite okay because our weighted average cost of capital. We don't even say weighted average cost of capital. WACC. WACC. Our WACC is 4%. Right? So now 7% is more than enough. Right? This is how we communicate, right? As a business professional. So if we have a meeting with McKinsey or government officials, we often use that kind of term. Okay? So if you study at the business school, right? If you don't know those terms, right? You don't understand what even they are talking about, right? So I think, step by step, right? We can start to plan. Right? Because when I studied first time in UK, I even didn't know what they are talking about. But gradually, right, you will be started knowing about those kind of information. Okay. So last time, right, we were ended, right, around this kind of around this slide. So if you understand the concept of cross ratio already, right? If you see this product, this is retailers, right? So I take supermarket chain as an example. Right? So make it simple. At your supermarket chain, we have a beef, fish, vegetable, fruits, ice cream, and alcohol. Okay, this is depending on categories, right? And revenues, right, from each categories are shown like this. Okay, and gross profit by selling one piece, how much they can earn, right? So by earning this much on beef, how much gross profit they earn. And the next column is average inventory. Right? And the turnover and gross margin is just function or divided, right, of the column of the left-hand side. And I already calculated cross ratio, so you don't need to calculate cross ratio. Okay? So in this case, now you understand the concept of those indicators. Because if you see this, actual financial statement is much more complicated. You have a revenue, right, cost of goods sold, gross profit, and you deduct a lot of expense. Right? Expense of people, expense of advertisement, and then you get operational profit. Then you deduct another interest, blah, 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 and then you finally get net profit. But this one is only revenue and gross profit. It's very simple. Right? I made it very simple. But if you understand, right, the concept of cross ratio, right, if I ask you, which one is the most profitable for you? How about Taro-san, which one is the most profitable? If you see this graph, or any other person are also fine. Taro-san actually used to study at the business school.
Ice cream.
Ice cream, okay. Who else? How many of you think ice cream? Or any other opinion?
Yes, I agree with ice cream.
Ice cream. Any other person? Because if you are asked to manage profitability of farm, right, and you are now appointed as CEO of one of the largest supermarket chain in Laos, and when you check the numbers, right, you found out, okay, each category make a profit like this. Each category make a revenue. Revenue is the same as sales, right? Are shown like this, right? And you calculated profitability, right? Margin, turnover ratio, and cross ratio, and you got those numbers, right? And how you can manage this. So now you know cross ratio, so you know a little bit, right, about that. But usually on the financial statements, you don't have the gross margin ratio, turnover ratio, you don't have. What you have is on the top revenue, right, and cost of goods sold, and gross margin, right, and other items. Okay, but if you know several indicators, now you know gross margin ratio, turnover ratio. Right? Of course, we have many other indicators, but to make it simple, I just explain, right, some of key items. Any other opinion? So everyone think it's ice cream.
Yes. Ice cream.
Also maybe this one. Why is the reason why ice cream is most profitable? Does anyone can answer?
Because of the margin.
Margin, when you say margin, which column? Which one?
Ice cream.
Yes, ice cream, but margin is which one?
44% approximately.
Yeah, 44%.
44%, because margin is high.
Yes.
So this is ice cream. Okay. Any other opinion?
Yes, because the cross ratio is high. And
cross ratio is high.
Yes.
As I said, only margin doesn't explain profitability. Right? This was the point of Lego. Right? Even high profitability, if you can sell only 1 or 2 products per year, then it will not bring us, right, the profitable. Even profitability 5%, but if we can sell 100 items, then that product is more important for us, right? Because profitability is a function of profitability multiple, right? How many items we can sell. In other words, right, how much inventory turnover we can enjoy, right? So those functions, this is what we call cross ratio, right? So if we look at this, right, cross ratio is 2,200, right? So in this case, maybe if we sell more ice cream, right, we can be more profitable, right? If you study the concept of cross ratio, right, maybe people tend to answer like this, okay? But the point here I wanted to say is, because usually a lot of business school students, or if you study even undergraduate students, right, people can answer like this. Okay, this 2,200 cross ratio, right? But point is, the business is not as simple as that, right? If you study only textbook, people say, oh, ice cream, we have to sell more ice cream, right? This is right on the textbook. However, if you go to supermarket, right, what you are going to buy? When you go to supermarket, you want to buy only ice cream?
No.
No.
No. What do you want to buy at your supermarket?
Alcohol.
Fruits.
Apple,
Any. Yeah.
right? Beef, vegetable, fish, right? So if you go to supermarket, right, people are not expecting only ice cream. Of course, ice cream is profitable for us, right? But we are not ice cream shop, right? That kind of mistake we often make, right? Because 2,200, right? We can earn more, so we put much more ice cream and reduce beef, fish, vegetable, right? But then we are less attractive as supermarket, okay? So knowing the indicators are important, but more important thing is for what we are existing, what kind of company we are, what customers are expecting from us. Okay, so this is the kind of side effect when we, because for example, when we take medicine, right, we have some side effect, right? If we take too much medicine, right? When we take a good medicine, we also need to know side effect of that kind of medicine. So same thing, when you use very powerful management tool, right? This is same as medicine. We also need to know side effect, negative side of using those numbers. Okay, so cross ratio is important, right? However, when we use cross ratio, we need to be very careful about side effect of cross ratio. Right? This is an example. So if you study, right, management at the business school, everyone could say ice cream. Right? This is a normal things. But if you look, right, this, right, I put one more column, right, called revenue contribution, right? How each category of product contributed to our total sales of the supermarket, right? If we go back to this slide, right? This is a revenue, right? Nearly 70,000, right? Million or something per year for our revenue. But if we look at ice cream, how many percent of total revenue ice cream occupied? How many percent? You can just divide it. How about the vegetable, fish, beef? Right? If we look at this, right, this is what we call revenue contribution. Right? So when we use cross ratio is important. But at the same time, ice cream only accounts for 3.6% of our revenue. Right? Meaning that too much focusing on ice cream might lose, right, our source of revenue. Right? So when we use cross ratio, right, to complement, right, this kind of side effect, we need to put one more column called revenue contribution. These kind of things you can put Excel, right? You don't need to use, buy very expensive software, right? But we can do manually even, right? Or even, that kind of software is now available. But what you need to customize is to put one column here, revenue contribution, right? And then this is cross ratio, right? So what I want you to do is you can multiple revenue contribution, multiple this cross ratio, so that you can get contribution margin, right? This is 591%. So if you look at this, what you need to focus more is vegetable, right? Here, vegetable, fish, fruits, beef, and ice cream. Okay, so we can slightly increase the portion of ice cream, but more important thing is we're gonna manage more on the vegetable, fish, fruits, and the beef. Okay, this is how we use cross ratio. Okay, right. So if you know like this, then people might think, right? Because this kind of things you cannot study outside of the business school. Even if you are selling some product at the shop, right? You can't learn from experience, right? But this kind of things, it's something what you expect, right, to learn at the business school. Okay, this is what I think. So this is the reason I know not many people like numbers, right? When I start teaching numbers, everyone wants to sleep. So if you have a small kids, right, the best way for them to sleep is to show numbers. Right? It's the same thing. If I want to make you sleep, right, if I continue to talk about accounting, I can make you sleep very well. Right? However, it's same thing for everyone. It's same thing for everyone. No one can enjoy with numbers. So this is the reason you can differentiate yourself, right? Because no one wants to study this kind of numbers, right? I want to study more about blue ocean strategy, right? Supply chain management, right? Value chain, right? High value added, customer oriented, digital strategy. Right? Everyone want to listen, right? And it's fun, right? If we talk about Louis Vuitton, Ferrari, Mercedes-Benz, right? Everyone want to listen, right? But that kind of things you cannot differentiate, right? Because everyone can learn that kind of things. Even not as a business school, at a business school, they can read something, they can listen from someone's stories. But this kind of numbers, no one want to study. So if you study, right, that kind of abilities, right, you can add the value to the society. Okay, so this is the reason why I decided to choose accounting and strategy and global management as my topic of my master's thesis and doctoral thesis at the University of Oxford, because no one wanted to study accounting. So this is the reason, right? Maybe Taro-san explained, I was appointed as a head of MBA when I was 29 years old, right? And I was become advisor for Thai government when I was 28 years old, right? And I'm youngest professor in here, Sashin, and also other places. This is not because of not because of I'm excellent, just because of there is no such a person in my field. Very small people wanted to study my field because it's difficult, right? So that I don't have any competitors, right? It's very much blue ocean, right? But blue ocean is not something like for us too easy to study, right? Blue ocean is no one want to study, but important, right? So that area is accounting, right? So if you want to develop your career, right, I recommend you to study a little bit more, dig down, or a little bit more, right, spend time to understand these kind of things, right? So that you can give more specific advice, right, to the companies, right? This is what I think, okay? Because I want you to develop your career successfully, right? So this is the reason I spend some time. So the point is, cross ratio is important. Right? Knowing cross ratio itself is quite, good enough. However, if we go a little bit more, right, we also want to know revenue contribution, right? And then we understand contribution profitability. Okay. So actually this Yoan, if you remember Yoan, right? I'm not sure how many of you still remember the person called Yoan in the case, right? Do you remember when he took over Lego, right? Lego was at that time world famous toy companies already. How old was he? If you remember, how old was he when he was appointed as a president, CEO of Lego?
35 years old.
Right, only 35 years old.
Yes.
Right, and he got a doctoral degree, right, in management, right, which is very good business school. And before that, he got MBA, same as you, right? And he worked for McKinsey company, right, consulting firm, right? And then, right, he appointed, right? So meaning that, right, he spent doctoral program 5 years, MBA 2 years, and usually you graduate at the age of 22 or 3, right? So actually he has experience like as a consultant only for 3 years, right? And then in sudden he was appointed as a CEO. But this is he's a professional business person, right? So this is what he did, right? In actually, right, to turn over to help Lego. So if you see this, revenue of Lego, right, after taking him as a CEO, 3 times larger than before, right? And retailers dealing Lego product increase, right? Retail margin, so retailers, right, enjoy retail margin and retail turnover, inventory turnover, right? And shelf space, shelf space is how much space they can keep for Lego. Okay, so their inventory turnover increase, their profitability increase, meaning that their cross ratio increase, right? So that if they can make more profit, right? Oh, this product can make more profit. Why not we increase the corner, right? Or shelf, right? To put more Lego product. This is naturally thing, right? For retailers. Right? So if you look at this, right? This is some key indicator. 2004, right? The revenue was 6.3, right? But now, after taking, right? Him to take, right? Over the presidency, right? He increased nearly 3 times. And the net profit, it was negative before, but now it's positive. And the return on investment, it was 1.2%, but now it's 133.4% increase, right? And the reason why, right? If you look at only this, he did quite well. But now right? Some of the indicators more than this, right? Usually on the statement, you can see revenue, net profit, right? And if you use balance sheet information, you can calculate this, right? But if you look a little bit more, retailers margin, right? For the retailers, it's not a profit of Lego, it's profit for retailers. If you look at this, before retailers margin on the case, right? In the case, it was only 19%, right? But he managed, their production system, right? And he reduced the items, right? Much less than before, so that they could reduce inventory cost for Lego and mistakes, right? And a lot of things they reduce, right? So that, right, they could reduce the cost, expense within Lego, so that they can sell the product cheaper than before. So now retailers margin increased to 30%, and retailers turns, right? Because they invest more on inventory management, so that retailers doesn't face out of stock, right? So whenever Christmas or some movie is just finished, then they can on time receive the product. So that the return turns increase 5 times. And so meaning that before they give us only 9 feet space for Lego, but since now Lego is happy, if multiple, like 38% before cross ratio, right? But now 150% cross ratio, 5 times, right? So that, right, they increase their sales space more than 3 times, right? So it directly affects to revenue and profit, right? So this is how we manage retailers. Right? So if we categorize other factors as important customers, right, then those calculations would be different. But since this Johan, right, is also studied at the business school, he could use this kind of analysis, right, same as us, right, and then he did, right, right things, right, set up right question and approach rightly, and the result becomes like this. Okay, so I think this is a story of Lego, right? So I explained very quickly, and I think this is more slightly different from what you have done on Saturday and Taro-san's session. And that kind of session is also important for you to work together with your friends, but at the same time, you also need to cultivate your own capability, right? With a little bit patient, right? But by knowing those kind of numbers or management, technology or tools, right? You can change even that kind of companies about to go bankrupt to turn over like this way. Okay, this is one of the example of the Lego.
Excuse me, Professor. I saw the DKK, but I don't know what DKK stands for.
That one is their currency. Their currency, right?
Currency. Oh, okay.
So you don't need to care that much time.
Okay.
That much, that part. Okay.
Yeah.
But the point is, how we should categorize, our factors, and how we should set up indicators, and how we should approach, to improve those indicators, right? Then what kind of outcome we can receive. Okay. So these things, unless we define retailers as a customer, right? We cannot approach like this way. But even we define retailers as most important customers, but if we don't know anything about numbers, right? Then we cannot even know, right? Where do we need to focus on, right? How we are going to utilize our resources in order for us to improve our performance. Okay. So this is how they prioritize issues, right? Prioritize means how you decide which factors are most important, okay? And how we're gonna visualize things, right, with numbers, so that we can manage. If we cannot measure it, we cannot manage it, right? So we have to make things to be measurable, meaning that manageable, okay? Measurable, manageable, and controlling those issues, right, indicators, to make it successful. Okay. So I can show you the overview slide. Okay. Are you tired? A bit tired. Do you see the slide? Are you tired? A bit too much information? Right. So, but don't worry, I reduced the case already. So we are not going to do ING case anymore, right? Because I think it could be too much, right? So I reduced the case, and maybe tomorrow we can do something else, right? Apart from case. Okay, but if you want to really study with case, right? You can come to study with us. Right? I'm teaching at Sashin Chulalongkorn University, and you are always welcome to come to take my course as a observer. And I'm also teaching at Nagoya University of Commerce and Business, which is a best business school in Japan, and Waseda, and also Meiji Business School. Right? And if you want to study more with those kind of top executives, right? You can join, right? And you know the difference, right? And you can feel how business person, right, with your neighboring countries are studying the business. Okay, but here, right, we can do a little bit more slowly, right? Here, right, what we have learned from Lego's case. And after this slide, we can take a break. Okay, and again, what was the key issue of Lego, right? To make it simple, Lego was losing the competitive edge. This is what we have studied, right? So what does competitive advantage mean, right? We often say, oh, we have competitive advantage. But what does it mean, right? This is, the condition that the company's profitability is above or below the industrial average. This is how we define competitive advantage, right? This is not right or wrong. This is how we use the term at the business school. Okay, if our profitability is above industrial average, at this condition we say we have competitive advantage. Okay, otherwise if we don't define, everyone can say, oh, they have a competitive advantage. And if we ask why you think so, because I like that food, because they sell very tasty food, so they have a competitive advantage. And there are a lot of customers, so they have a competitive advantage. Everyone can say like this, right? But the important thing is, how about their profitability? Okay. So in the field of management or strategic management, we define competitive advantage like this way. And strategic management is a discipline or a study where its source of those differences are coming from. Okay. And we want to see the reason within strategy. This is a strategic management, right, field. Okay.
Professor, we saw your slide like Japanese language.
You don't see the slide?
Yeah, it's only Japanese language in the.
Oh, how about this? Now you see the slide?
I see many file in your computer. Maybe.
Oh, I think we have a time now, so I can reopen it. Okay. Sorry about this.
It's okay.
How about this? Now do you see?
No.
We are seeing your folder.
How about this? Now do you see?
Not yet. Seeing your
Still
folder.
folder?
Yeah, the folder, the file overview slide.
Just a moment. I can close and open. Okay. Okay. Sometimes these things happen when we do teaching in the Zoom. Okay, so let me try like this way. How about this? Do you
Okay.
see?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
So, right? So this is when we say competitive advantage, what? Right? We define competitive advantage like this way, right? The company, whether a company has a profitability above the average, below average. If we have above average, we say at this condition, right? The company has a competitive advantage. And next question is, where is the source of competitive advantage? Where is the source of advantage are coming from? Right? If above average, why they can produce above average, right? And if you are study in the field of leadership, right? Those people say maybe they could have a leadership. If you have organization theories, we want to study the source of competitive advantage from organizational reasons. If you are studying operation, right, we are trying to understand the reason from operational excellency. But if we are studying strategy, we are trying to see the reason within strategy. Okay, this is just a difference. But people, we are looking for the source of competitive advantage. Okay, in the management. Okay, and for the Michael Porter's, right, 5 forces model, right, what he see, right, is positioning, determining the profitability. Okay, the firms can produce above profitability because of their positioning. Right? Positioning is first, positioning in high profitable industry. This is one. And another positioning is strategic positioning, cost leadership, differentiation, or focus strategy. This is what you have studied with your professor before, right? Okay. But that kind of positioning determine whether or not firms' profitability is above or below the industrial average. This is how Michael Porter's positioning view see the role of strategy. Okay. And right, in order for us to understand competitive advantage, we need to understand 3 components. Right? When we say advantage against who? Right? Advantage against competitor. Right? This is the economic approach. Right? But competing with competitors. Right? Of course, we are competing with competitors. But for what? For what? For what we are competing with competitor? If I ask you, for what we are competing with competitors? For what?
I think for profit.
For profit.
Yeah.
Who bring profit to us? Who bring profit to us?
Customer.
Customer, right?
Yes.
So we are competing with competitors for customers, right? This is a management approach. For economic approach, we're just focusing on profitability, right? But for management, we are more focusing on the customers. So we are trying to focus, right? Triangle relationship, company, customer, and competitors. Okay. And if we look at this, right, this is a logic of competitive positioning, like Michael Porter's. This is average profitability, right, in the US, right? If you look at this, you know, the x-axis is profitability, and we can divide it depending on industry. So if you look at these cosmetic pharmaceutical industries, right, on average, right, they enjoy more than 15% of profitability, right? But if telecom is very slim, right, or steel or air transport, right, or auto and truck, right, their profitability is low. Do you agree? Do you agree? So Michael Porter said, it is not because of company is excellent or not. If you are in right industry, right, even on average, they can enjoy 15%. Don't you think so? So this is the reason why we have to analyze the external environment, structure, right, that define the profit. This is what we call SCP approach, structure, conduct, performance approach, right? If you search SCP approach, you can find the logic in the Google, but I'm not going to explain here, okay? And if you look, right, this is also Porter's view on competitive advantage. So the fundamental basis of above average performance in the long run is sustainable competitive advantage, right? This is what he said, right? And there are two basic types of competitive advantage, right? This is low cost over differentiate, right? This is what you study, right? And these two basic types of competitive advantage, right, combined with the scope activities for which a firm seeks to achieve them to lead three generic strategies, right? It's same thing, cost leadership, differentiation, but focus with focus strategy, right? So cost focus and differentiation focus. This is what you have studied, right? Right? And if I put all of them into one, right, I can explain like this. Right? Everyone knows cost leadership differentiation strategy, right? But first thing we need to think is competitive advantage, source of competitive advantage, and right, if this is provided by uniqueness perceived by customers or not, right? And also our strategic target is industry-wide or niche-wide, right? Very small segment, right? So that we can categorize strategy here, differentiation strategy, cost leadership strategy, and focus strategy, right? So focus strategy can be divided as differentiated focus and the cost focus, okay? But if you don't take the position, right, you will be stuck in the middle, meaning that, right, you cannot create any profitability and very difficult for you to survive within this stack, okay? This is Michael Porter's ideas. However, right, it's same as cross ratio, right? Positioning makes sense, right, for you, right? If you are in the right industry, right, you can enjoy, even on average, higher profitability. Don't you think so? Right? If you are still industry on average is already negative, it's very difficult for them to perform, right? Very high profitability. So Michael Porter said, choose right industry, choose right segment, right? This is the reason why he said positioning is important, okay? So this is why we call his approach as positioning approach, okay? However, there are some exceptions, right? If like positioning is only the reason, right? It's relatively easy. Everyone can position, right, themselves. But if you look at this, right, even in the steel industry, if you remember, steel industry was like this. Right? On average, it's very, very low, right, profitability. So even within steel industry, right, if you look at this, right, steel industry, right, this is within steel industry. Some of this Great Northern Iron or those companies, right, they perform very high, right, meaning that it's not only positioning. Even within lowest profitable industry, there are some companies who can perform better than others. Okay, so meaning that there is more than positioning, right? So this required another approach for us to understand the competitive advantage. This is what we call resource-based view of the strategy. It's not a positioning view. So resource-based is something like companies' resources, right? They have a unique resources and capabilities. So this is the reason, not only positioning, but they can perform better than the others. So there are two different views. Positioning is external factors. So 5 forces model, if you remember, all factors of 5 are external environment. Right? But only external environment cannot explain everything because there are some internal factors. This is what we call resource-based view of the firm. So like 5 forces model, resource-based view of the firm has their own framework. I'm not going to explain today, but this is what we call VRIO analysis. Okay, so it's the same thing. So we have to see both sides at the same time. Okay, so if you look at this, right, on average profitability, this red line, right? However, there are some good companies, right, performing much higher than average. So there might be another reason more than positioning. Okay, and the pharmaceutical industry, you saw pharmaceutical industry enjoying the highest profitability across all the industries, right, and the cosmetic. But if you look at this, right, their average is like this, very high, right, profitability. But there are some companies, right, even pharmaceutical industries, right, not performing well. So this is more than positioning, don't you think so? Right? It might coming from their strategic positioning, stacking in the middle, or something wrong with their internal resources. Right? So actually, the source of competitive advantage, right? We have 4 different views. One is our focus, whether or not if we see the source of competitive advantage within companies, this is internal. Okay, this is internal. Or external source, right? This is positioning view. Okay, and if we focus on factors, right? This is positioning approach, 5 forces model. This is resource-based view of approach, right? But if you focus more on process, right? I'm not going to explain, but if you study at the business school, you want to study all of those approaches. One is learning approach, and the other one is game approach. Maybe you have studied or have ever had game theory or learning theory. Right? These things is more dynamic approach. Right? But this is very basic 4 different views on the source of competitive advantage. Okay? So what we have studied with Lego case is only positioning approach. Okay? But in order for you to complement, right, the concept of strategy, you might need to study 3 other, right, perspectives, okay, to complement. Okay, so maybe in the future, right, you could study a little bit more on the strategy. Okay, so this is what we have studied, this red part. Okay, but blue part is also important. Okay. So I'm not going to explain this one. Maybe I see from your face, right? Looks a bit tired, right? So if you want to study, right, you can read this book, right? Everywhere in the world, right? You can find, right? However, this one can only explain about positioning, right? But as we studied positioning itself, right? Just itself is not enough because internal resources are more important sometimes. So if you want to study that perspective, this book, right, is very important. This is when I was 18 years old, right, at the university in Japan, and I have read this book with my professor. I still remember, right? But this one is a so-called resource-based view of the firm. Okay. So if you want to study, right, you can read. This is textbook at the business school. Everyone read those books. But the last one is this book, The End of Competitive Advantage. Because now everything has been changing so fast, right? If you remember, right? Digitalization, globalization change all context of the business. Right? So even one firm create competitive advantage, but tomorrow, right, it's going to disappear very soon. So competitive advantage, right, is not something we can gain, right? But we have to continuously keep on adapting the environment, continuously change ourselves in order for us to survive. Right? So this is a key message of this book. So if you're really interested in the field of strategy, or in the future, if you want to work for international institute or a top consulting firm, or if you want to join the board members of big firm, right? Then I recommend you to read those books. Okay. So not only gaining competitive advantage, but sustaining competitive advantage is important. But sustaining competitive advantage is not that easy. Okay, this was the key message. And if you look at this, this is something. This is text mining. Right? If you read internet or newspapers, those kind of terms, right, is coming up. Right, like digital, IoT, right, and also diversity and emerging countries, emerging Asia, like Laos is also emerging Asia, and also change, that kind of things, or tradition, right? So I think you feel tired a bit, so we can stop around here and take a break for 10 minutes. And if you think it's too much information, I can slow down a little bit. Or if you are okay with this speed, I can continue after a break like this speed. Do you think it's too fast or too much information?
Maybe
You can.
it's fine. It's fine.
Okay.
Yes, the same as before.
Okay. Right. Okay. So after 10 minutes, like 32 past 9 or 7:32 in your time, please come back here and we can continue. 1 more hour to go. And don't worry, you have only 1 more hour plus 1 day so that you can be released from this intensive course. Okay, so please be patient a little bit more with me. Okay,
Professor,
thank you very much. Yes.
Do we have the final exam?
Oh yes, we have exam.
Oh.
Okay. No, we have a report. So I'm going to explain the report.
Okay.
Assignment today. Maybe after break, I can show you. Okay.
Okay.
So please enjoy your 10 minutes break and see you soon again. てっこさん、ちょっと難しいかな。どうだ。
そうですかね。いやー、もう、興味ある人には面白いんじゃないですか。
多分戦略論とかの先生は多分大学の先生じゃない人が教えてるんだろうね、これ。
ポーターしか教えてないと思うんですよ。
多分実務家の人とかだから、多分、もしかしたら、やってないんだと思うね。もしかしたら。だから、ちょっとケースはあれやめて、もう少しベーシックなやつの方がいいかもね。ね、そうだね。
外部か内部かを のこと、なんとなく分かった。
難しいかな。
いや、その、外部か内部か、二つ考え方あるんですよって分かるだけでもいいんじゃないですか。今まで
まあね。はい。 Hello everyone. Do you still need more time to have a break a bit more? Right. I understand you are working in the daytime, so it's very tiring, right? If I were you, I don't want to take a class for 3 hours and a half after finishing work.
เกิดมีอะไร
Right. So I understand you are feeling.
เดี๋ยวอาจารย์น้องญี่ปุ่น
It's okay.
It's okay.
Yes, we can learn now.
Maybe after hobby, right? Maybe we can personally visit your campus so that it's more easy for us to communicate with each other, and we can use whiteboard and we can do much more discussion. Do you think everyone comes back? Maybe not. Wait for a while. Or while we are waiting, I can just explain your final exam. Not the exam, but I just want you to submit the report, right? Because you have already spent a lot of time, right, with the session with Japanese students, right? Because even after taking a class, right, you work extra time already. So that group-based session, group work, also we can count as your report, right? As one or part of report, right? But one more report, right, from us is this one. I can show you. Okay. Do you see the slide?
Yes, can see teacher.
Right. It's not actually like a report, but you know, just I want you to explain, right, or say anything about what you have studied, what you have learned throughout this class, and how would you like to explore, or how would you like to use something that you have learned for your future, right? Or what kind of things you have get insight from this class, whatever, right? You can just write it, right, as a report. And I don't mind if you use PowerPoint slide or Word file, right? And I don't mind. Okay. And if you finish the report, 太郎さん去年どうしたっけ？Last year, maybe Laos Japan Institute collect all report, and then they pass those kind of file to Taro-san, right? So that I give you a grade. Okay. Okay. So basically, you know, you can write anything what you have studied, or if you feel interest, right, in any part, you can just explain. And if you are not interested in, you can also say, complain. Oh, I don't want to take your lecture anymore. Don't come back again. That kind of things is also fine. Right? But whatever you want to say, right, you can just share me so that I can improve my teaching, right? And I can adjust, you know, for the next year. Right? But don't worry, I don't give you C or a D, right? You have already spent a lot of time with us. Right? So for me, it's more than enough already. Right? Taro-san would like to say something? You...
No, it's okay. I'm just looking what their reports, what they will write, and with some comments on this lecture course. They spend a week with that.
By the way, do you have a chance to visit Japan, Tokyo? No? As a MBA study tour? If you have, you can just visit us, right? Because our campus is just the most centrally located business school in Japan, just 10 minutes away from the Tokyo station. So I think it's very convenient. Or if you don't have a chance to visit Tokyo this time, if you could have a chance to visit Bangkok, from this Wednesday, the day after, right after I finish teaching, I'm gonna take airplane to go to Bangkok, to Chulalongkorn University. So I will be at Sashin School of Management of Chulalongkorn University for 1 month to 2 months every summer. So if you have a chance to visit Bangkok, you can also visit us at university, at Chulalongkorn University, Sashin School of Management. And that school is also at the center of Bangkok. I'm not sure if you know Siam Square. Right? Our campus is just next to Siam Square. Right? So you can also enjoy shopping. And if you feel tired to do shopping, you can just visit us in Bangkok. So Taro-san can show you around the campus.
Yes, of course.
Right. Okay. Do you have any question regarding to the final report?
Yes, teacher, I have some question.
Yes, please.
When is the deadline? We don't know about the deadline.
Deadline, Taro-san gonna check with the deadline, right?
Okay.
But I think I remember something like 1 week after the class.
Agree.
So maybe next weekend or something, because we have to grade you, right?
Right.
Right? So I think it depending on the deadline for us to grade. Right? But I wanna give you as long as possible. But if too long, you might forget to submit the report. So not too long, right? But whatever you learn, and if you could use any kind of concept or any kind of contents what we learned in the class would be great. Okay, because we talked a lot of things, right? Or even some discussion among us. Right? If we use those examples, right, it would be great. Any other question? On the final report? Or what? Is it too easy for you? You prefer exam? Exam on the calculation of
No.
cross ratio?
It's okay for us.
It's okay to take exam?
Yes, for make a report to you after we finish class.
Okay. I'm just kidding. So you prefer the report more than exam, right? Only Don-san want to take exam, right? Don-san want to take exam? I can make special exam for you. Don-san, Pauna-san want to take exam.
No, it's okay.
Okay. So any other question on report? So please do not forget to submit report. Okay, on time. So I think it takes for 1 week. So maybe by tomorrow, Taro-san will check about the deadline for the submission of report. Okay, so the beginning of the class tomorrow, Taro-san will explain. Okay. But I don't have any specific length, so you can, but not too long, 100 pages or 200 pages of what you have learned. But not just 1 or 2 sentences. Oh, it was very fun. Thank you very much, Professor. Right? This is too short. Right? But you know, as a business person, right, what is appropriate, okay? But I don't specify how many words, how many pages. I don't even specify PowerPoints, right, or Word file, right? But don't forget to put your name, right? Otherwise, I don't know. Okay? So maybe you might have a format, so you have a front page, right, of title, right, of your report, right, and your name, and I'm not sure if you have a student number or something like that, right? Then it's more than enough.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Do you have template for report or just we make ourselves?
Yeah, you can make yourself. Right? We don't have any template. Okay, PowerPoint or Word file. Right? So this is how, it's same as you to formulate strategy. Right? There is no format to formulate strategy. So the important thing is how you define your report and from which perspective you would like to explain what kind of things, okay, to who. Okay, so this is also part of exercise. But I remember last year your friend did quite okay. Right? Quite okay. If you want, I can show you some of the example. 今、瀬古さん、消えたあれが、共有。
そうですね、画面共有今消えてます。
他の学生の名前が出た。ちょっと待って、just a moment, please, I can just show you. But name is here. I can just show you some of the examples, right, very quickly. So there are some of. So this is one student. Have you? Can you see?
Yes, can see.
Right. So this is something like this. She used 5 forces model like this. Right. The contents is doesn't matter. I can just show you one by one some of them. I can just show you from the top to the bottom, but it's not something like top from the score, but just the who submitted first. Right. So this is another student. Do you see? No?
Not yet, teacher.
This is another student. Right, so everyone use maybe different analysis, but of course, they also have done a Lego case. I said, so some of them picked up some company, like his case is Coca-Cola, right? Or some of them analyze LJI by using some competitive framework, right? And some other, maybe one more example. One other example of your friend or your senior, right, graduated last year, is some of them selected Louis Vuitton, right? So he or she explained, Louis Vuitton strategy like this. Right? So something like this. Okay. This is just a brief idea of how your senior define subject by themselves and create the report. Okay. So some people spend like 5-6 pages, some people spend 3 pages, right? But it depends. And some people use PowerPoint, right? And then the one I showed you, they use Word file, but maybe I can show you someone who uses PowerPoint. Oh, this one use a PowerPoint. And some other student use PowerPoint like this. Right? He or she use the case as a DHL, right? So company overview, mission, vision, right? So something like this. Maybe this could be his own company or something. So this might be the reason why he has a lot of slide. Right? So some people use PowerPoint. Some people use the Word file. Right? This one spend a lot of time, but it depends, right? How you define. Okay. So this is just an example, right, of the report. Are you okay? Any question? No. So, okay. So Taro-san, do you want to say something?
No.
Not particular.
But just Vitona-san looks very tired, so it makes me laugh. Vitona-san.
Vitona-san. Oh, yes. Everyone looks tired today. It's Monday. So people don't like Monday usually. Is it Monday?
Yes, it is Monday.
It's Monday. So, yeah. Tomorrow is the last day.
I think they look tired every day.
Every day.
But we can finish earlier today, right? Because you spend a lot of extra time with group work, right, over the past few days. So today I try to finish at 10:30, just. Okay, is that good?
Yes, very good.
So if I still continue talking, then you can stop me. Oh, you said you finish at 30, then we can just close. Okay. So let me continue a little bit more. Right. But Taro-san, do we have both function? If we have, we can use. But if not, don't worry.
Vitona-san kindly arranged for us.
Oh, it's great. So this might be the reason why she feels tired. You ask some extra job. Okay. Okay, so we can do the both function. I'm not sure if you have ever used. So this one. Do you see my slide?
Yes, can see.
Right. So if I ask you, right, how do you describe the current business environment, right, for you in one word? Right? If one word, how do you describe your current business environment? If you can choose one out of this: change, risk, uncertainty, digital, global, which one do you think? どうやってやるんだろうこれ both function. So let us try to use both function. Have you ever used both function in the Zoom?
No, we don't.
No. Let us try. This time Taro-san and Vitona-san kindly created both function. Let us try.
Vitona-san どうですか？
コールのボタンを押して、ランチのボタンがありますね。そ
Do
れ、
you see this one? And this one?
はい、見えました。
Thank you, Vitona-san. It's
い
very
えい
good.
え、どういたしまして。
So how do you describe the current business environment in one word? If you choose one, digital, or one person selected digital. Only one. Change. Oh, okay. Digital. Uncertainty. Now, 9 of you answered the question. Well, 13 of you. Maybe 10 more students.
Song xài ước chờ nè, cái ở chấp bỏ lên đi nè, cái nếu bỏ lúc lên kia nè, lúc lên con kia anh cháu.
Several more, or some of your friends are sleeping already. But actually, Taro-san is checking who sleeps. Okay. Who?
I am still here, Professor. Just because my internet is quite bad. That's why.
21. So 4 students didn't answer. Okay. So maybe it's about time, so we can see the result. Do you see the result?
No. Okay, yes, now we can.
So a lot of people answered uncertainty, and digital, and some of you mentioned global and change. Okay. This is how you feel about the current status of the business. Right? So if we look back, about our text mining, right? If you remember, before the break, like these kind of things were coming out, like digital, IoT, diversity, like emerging Asia, change, and other things, some people say speed, uncertainty. And if you look at this picture, what do you see in this picture? This kind of things is not that much, tiring, right? So we can learn more visually today. What do you see in this picture?
The boat.
A boat. Yes, thank you. Boat.
Mountain.
What? Yes.
Mountain.
Mountain. Yes, mountain. Do you know this mountain?
Fuji Mountain.
Yes, Mount Fuji, you can see. And some boat. What else you can see?
Wave.
Wave. Is this a big wave or a small wave?
Big wave.
It's a big wave, right? Anything else do you see?
Sky.
Tsunami. Yes, it's very big wave, like tsunami. And what else you see?
People.
Yes, people. Where are the people?
On the boat.
In the boat. There are a lot of people with wave, right? Looks like, they... Yes, please.
With some goods.
Yes, it's some goods. Yes, right. So
Sky.
Yes.
Sky.
Some boat made a big wave and
Yes. And those guys have the same hairstyle with Taro-san. Can you show the hairstyle? Oh, a little bit similar, but traditional hairstyle of Japanese. Right? They put, those persons are on the boat, right? On the big wave, right? So it's similar if boat as a company, right? And people as people working in the company, right? And as you said, it's a change, uncertainty, right? And drastically changing, right? Risk, right? It's something like, as if this is a modern corporate environment. And some of you said you can see the Mount Fuji, right? And this is in the period of uncertainty. This is what everyone agree, right? So at the business school, every year we ask the question, same question. If you describe the current business environment in one word, how do you describe? How would you describe? And over the past 10 years, all top executives across the world answer uncertainty as a top keyword. Okay? So uncertainty is like this. We don't know where to go. We don't know what happened. We don't know whether we can survive. Right? So in this situation, we don't know where to go, right? Because we don't know the direction. Okay? So in the period of turbulent change, very drastical change like a wave, right? We still need to go somewhere because we are already on the boat, right? We cannot stop going back to the shore to get off the boat because we are already in the boat, right? So we don't know where to go, but we have to keep on going, right? This is the situation of the current business. Okay. So in this situation, what kind of things are important as a business executive or top executive like you, right? What kind of things could be most important? Of course, strategy might be important. Leadership might be important. Incentive could be important. The culture could be important. But in the period of this turbulent change, what kind of things are essential for us? Right? This kind of question we repeatedly ask at Kellogg School of Management and also our partner, MIT, right? Sloan School of Management. Right? We often ask this question. Okay. So under this high turbulent situation, right? What is important is you see Mount Fuji, right? We don't know where to go, how things can be changed. But if you see Mount Fuji, right? Now you can see Fuji, right? So the point is this period of time to this period of time, like 200 years already passed, right? So a lot of things have been changed. Do you agree? So this is Tokyo, right? But if you know the Mount Fuji, right, at least you know this kind of sea is now changed to land somehow. Right? We can see what kind of change happened because of we have Mount Fuji. Right? If we don't have Mount Fuji, we don't know where it is. Right? We don't know even where we took this kind of shot. Right? So this is what we call value axis. Okay. So in the high turbulent environment, what is the most important thing is not to, right? But we need to set up value axis because we don't know where to go. Right. So next one here, what do you see? Do you see anything?
Rural area.
Mm-hmm. Anything else? What do you see?
House.
People.
Horse. House. House. Yes. And the people.
Horse.
Boat. Horse. Mm-hmm.
Horse. Code of electric.
Do you see Taro-san as well?
Yeah, in the video. Taro-san in behind.
In the behind.
Yeah.
Anything else? Do you see house, people, umbrella,
Bicycle.
bicycle?
Look like the market.
Market, like market. Yes. What else?
Big eagle.
Anything else? So someone said Mount Fuji is that wave picture, right? Wave and ship picture. In here, if you look at a little bit further, do you see anything? We cannot see Mount Fuji, but what else you
Yeah,
see?
I also see some like a hotel building. Yeah.
Building, like hotel. This
And
is a castle. Do you know
before
castle?
castle.
Yes, castle. This is Himeji Castle. This is the World Heritage of Japan. It's a castle. Do you know Cinderella Castle? If you like the Disneyland, right? There is a castle. So same as this one is castle. Japan in Japan. Right over there, here. Do you see castle? Here. Do you know my arrow? これ見える？この矢印。
出ます。
Here, do you see castle?
Yes.
Yes.
Right. So now you know value axis here. Right. We have a castle. Right. Value axis is whatever happened external environment. How much change it is, but still, you know, always the basic core is there. Right. It's not influenced. So like Mount Fuji was there, and this castle is here. Right? So this is the reason after that, right? Even few hundred years past, right? We know where it is because we have value axis, right? So in the period of change, people tend to focus too much on the change. What kind of things happen next? What could be next, right? But that kind of things never know. People never know. So not just too much paying attention to those changes. The important thing is purpose, or your value axis, or your philosophy, the reason why we are existing. Right? Where are we coming from? For what we are studying business? For what we are doing business? Why am I doing this kind of job? Right? That kind of things we need to set up, right, within ourselves, right, and also as a nation as well. Okay, so that we know, right, where it is. Right, so this is the role of value axis. Okay, and actually, if you have a chance to visit to Japan, right, you know, you are welcome to visit this city. Actually, I'm ambassador of this city, tourism ambassador of Hyogo Prefecture and Himeji City. Right? So actually I have been working with Laos government as well and the Thai government as well to attract tourists here. Right? And the French government as well. Right? So if you have a chance, you can visit, you know, this place. Okay? So in the period of change, right? What we need to not do is, you know, not writing the map, right? So if we have to go to travel somewhere, right? A lot of people say, "Oh, without a map, we cannot go. So can you give me a map?" Right? This is basic attitude of students. Sometimes, "Oh, teacher, I wanna just know the answer. Can you give me answer? I don't wanna think by myself. You can just give me answer, right?" This is something like, give me map, then I wanna travel, right? But we have to change the mindset because writing a map will not provide you anything because map itself will be changing, okay? Because business environment has been changing, so writing the very clear maps, right? Effectiveness of those maps will be disappear quite soon. Okay, so the important thing is not waiting for you to get right formula, right answer to yourself, right? But also, right, you have to go on your foot, with your foot, and you have to experience by yourself, right, and learn by doing. So when uncertainty increases, right, it opens room for the creativity of managers. Okay? Meaning that we have a lot of empty space, we have a lot of changes, right? Meaning that bring opportunities and risks at the same time, right? So if you look at risk, only risk, right? You might just keep on asking, give me, I want to avoid risk. How I can avoid risk, right? Give me the answer, right? give me some formula so that I want to do business. Right? But business are not like this. Right? The role of entrepreneur like you, right, or other top executives is for you to explore the opportunity. So sometimes when I teach risk management, right, risk management is not to avoid the risk. Okay, risk management is for you to take a risk. Okay, because without taking risk, you cannot create any profit. Okay, so the definition of risk is not to avoid risk. Okay, risk is original term of risk is riskier. It's Latin term, Latin word, right? In Italian, very traditional language. And the meaning of that is for you to take the risk by courage, right? This is the definition of risk, right? So risk is, right, with your own responsibility, you wanna go out to beyond unknown world. Right? In order for you to take action, you need to assess risk. So risk management is not for you to avoid risk, for you to take risk. Right? And the person who can take risk, this is what we call entrepreneur. And in the period of uncertainty, your role, right, is needed for the world. Okay? So in the period of uncertainty, right, people never know what comes next. Right? So adapting environment is not only changing ourselves to adapt the environment, but for us to move by ourselves. And by moving ourselves, we can create new environment. Not for us to adapt, right? But we can create, right, our own environment to survive. In order for us to do so, we need to build your core system within your science, your philosophy, and you have to be able to explain why you are doing business, for what kind of benefit you are bringing to the society, right? Just creating profit. I want to make a money, right? If you are saying this, people will not follow you. Okay. So the point is, right, in the period of uncertainty, right, we have to go back to the basic. There is no secret formula, but go back to the basic as a human, as a people. Okay. This is what I think. So map doesn't secure your journey during the disruptive and drastically changing world, because map, right, can be changed in sudden. But the compass, do you know compass? Right? Compass you can see here on the top, this one. Right? Compass is needed for your journey. And don't forget to consider your own philosophy to live. Okay? This is important. Right? So if you have compass, right? But you have to have value axis, right? Within compass. So value axis is here. Where is arrow? Yeah. This one. Okay? So if you have value axis, you know which direction you are going. If you go for north, just keep on going north. Okay? It doesn't matter if you have a map or not. The important thing is you have a compass, right? And you have your own value axis to move. Okay. This is what I think. Right? I have been studying business for 20 years at various business schools, but this is what I really think. Okay. So the point here is responding change is always a key management issue, right? And nowadays, as you explained, strategy, globalization, digitalization, in order for us to adapt uncertainty is important. And if you look this, right, what kind of things do you see in this picture? What kind of things do you see in this picture?
People don't use car, they use
they use horse.
Yeah, for travel.
Do you still use this when you go to company? When you go to work, do you still use this? Pantari-san? No.
No, never.
Okay. Taro-san, what do you use? You use turtle to move, right?
Yes.
Right. But in 1900, right, in the New York City, it was like this. So you see a lot of horse, right, instead of car, right? But do you see any car, automotive in this picture? Any automotive in this picture? No. Only horse. If you look at a little bit. And do you see Taro-san again?
In the left side.
Oh, in the left side, yes, yes. He's always in the left side. Any car? Any automotive? If you look at this one, is there a horse?
I think the horse on the road. Many people the traffic on the road.
There is only one or two automotive cars in here in the period of 1900, right? But the reason why I'm showing this, right, is after 10 years, this is on the same road. Okay? So only 10 years, things can be changed like this, especially with technology. This disrupts a lot of business, assumptions, everything. So that in the period of change with technology, these things happen. Right? We can learn from the history. Okay? So the point here is speed doesn't matter at the period of the technological innovation. Okay? In 13 years, no one could expect it. So meaning that the company who are making like this, right, to hit the horse, right, those kind of companies go disappear. Right? The ability to make the very strong horse, right, there is no job. Right? So a lot of things disappear, but at the same time, a lot of new opportunities arise. Right? So it depending how you see the risks. Right? If you keep on avoiding risk, right, you might not to be able to survive in the environment. But we don't know how fast those changes. But what we can say is speed doesn't matter. Okay? So if you look at this, like this is rapid changing emerging market. If you see mobile phone subscription rate, Cambodia, Laos, PDR, and Myanmar. If you see Cambodia in 2005, only 8% has a mobile phone, and Laos 11%, and Myanmar 0. Right? 2008, it was 1% penetration rate. But if you look at 2011, right, in Southern only within 3 years, right, penetration ratio of mobile of Laos and Cambodia becomes like this, right? And 2014, 17, because this slide I made like 10 years ago, right, when I presented this at UI Institute, long time ago. Right, so at that time it was something like around here 2011 or something. So what I said this is now things can be changed. Right, so even mobile phone, right, has been changing like this way. So don't think the speed of change is same as before. Right, it's same things, exactly same things. Right, how horse replaced by automotive. Right? How mobile phone might change our society, the way you work. Right now, with Laos, right, Japan Institute, I can use this kind of technology. I'm in Tokyo, Taro-san is Bangkok, and you are in Vientiane, but we can communicate like this. But 10 years ago, I don't think it was possible. Even 4 years ago, I don't think it was possible. Right? Because of COVID-19, right? The society has been changed. Right? There is a risks problem, but at the same time, it created a lot of opportunities for us. Right? So opportunities and risks are hand in hand. Right? So I wanted to explain like that. Okay? And also, this kind of change, right, affected how company grow, right? Because environment technology has been changing drastically. Growth of speed of the company also changed. Have you ever heard the term Fortune Top 500? Have you ever heard the term Fortune 500? Actually, this is market value, right? Top 500 firms all over the world. Okay, so Google, Facebook, Toyota, right? That kind of all companies are within this Fortune Top 500. And nowadays, a lot of Chinese companies are in here. Some of Thai companies as well. So before Fortune Top 500 companies, right? Once they establish their companies, right? To reach market capitalization and market value of their firms, 10 billion US dollars. How long does it take time? Right? For those top 500 firms, means that excellent top 500 firms in the world, it took 20 years to reach 10 billion US dollars market capitalization. Okay? Market capitalization, market value. Right? However, now technology has been changed. So if you look at Google, right, it takes only 8 years. Facebook, 4 years. Tesla, less than 4 years. Uber, do you know Uber? Okay.
Yes.
WhatsApp,
Yeah.
Snapchat, right? The other companies like this, all technology-based companies, it takes less than 4 years to reach 10 billion US dollars. Even Fortune Top 500, right, traditional business economy, right, top 500 company took 20 years. But those new technology firms takes only 4 years, right? So the point here is speed doesn't matter, and game changers coming from unexpected corner. Meaning that the rule of game in business has been changing, has been shifting. Right? This people on this side, right? If you look at this, right, this side of people having a gun, right? And the other side, they are fighting with horse. And before, long time ago, 400 years ago, 500 years ago, samurai period, right? This side, left-hand side, right-hand side, right, with horse, right? They have a lot of very strong horse, have the greatest power in Japan. But the gun, right? Gun came from Western countries. And this kind of very small shogun in the small country, he imported this kind of weapon. Right? And they use this in the fight, and very strong horse cannot defeat, right? Just single man with the gun weapon. And these kind of things now, if looking back 600 years later, right, it's very obvious. But around that period in time, in the war period in Japan, right, only this person who recognize the importance of the Western weapon. Right? So this kind of things has been happening with technology. Right? So history repeat again and again. So in the period of change, what we need to think is not to predict future, right? But we have to learn from the history. What happened when some big change happened in the society? What kind of things we have to pay attention? Okay? So again, the rule of game in business has been shifting, but it's not just begun today, right? It was a truth for long-term history, right? And the game changed, as I said. Competitor is coming from unexpected corner, unexpected place. So if you look at this, right? Advancement of information technology like internet, IoT. I'm not sure if you are interested in those terms, but what happened is, do you know Alipay? Alipay, right? It's the largest mobile settlement service provider, right? Alipay. However, they don't have any shop. Right? And this one, do you know Airbnb? Okay. No. Airbnb is the world's largest accommodation provider, right? But they don't have any real estate. They don't have any real estate, but they exceeded Hilton Group. Do you know Hilton, the hotel chain, world's largest hotel chain, right? Alibaba, right? Do you know Alibaba? Right? They are the most valuable retailer now, but they don't have any inventory. Right? These things couldn't happen before. And do you know Facebook? Right? World's most popular media owner, but they don't create any content. Right? Before the popular media, they had to create the content by themselves. But now they don't create anything, but they are largest. Uber, right? The world's largest taxi company, but they don't have any cars. Bitcoin is the world's biggest bank with no actual cash. YouTube, world's largest movie provider with no actual theater. So this kind of change is happening. So Walmart is the largest retail chain, but Amazon.com is now exceeded like this way in 2017. And Marriott International, right? Their room is like 1 million all over the world, but Airbnb is more like 5 million. Right? So this kind of things happen. Right? And do you know those companies? Google, Apple, Facebook, Amazon, Microsoft. This is what we call GAFA, right? Have you ever heard GAFA? And the market value of GAFA, right, is now more than market value of all Japanese Tokyo Stock Exchange listed companies. We have 2,200 companies in Japan in Tokyo Stock Exchange, including Toyota, Nissan, Honda. Right? But the market value is only this GAFA, 5 companies exceeded all total value of Japanese listed companies. These things happen. And not only GAFA, if you look at BAT, right, this is Chinese companies, right? It's more the same. And even now Tesla, right, exceeded market value of Toyota. Do you know Tesla? Right? Tesla, do you know what kind of company Tesla is? Do you see Tesla? Electric car, right? Do you see Tesla in Vientiane now? Some of them. Actually, Tesla used to be called as Tesla Motors. Do you know? The founder, originally Tesla called Tesla Motors before, right? But now Elon Musk thought a few years ago, automotive is not future. They don't have future anymore. So they took motor out. Like these things happen, right? But now they already exceeded Toyota's market value. Right? Toyota is one of the oldest Japanese automotive companies. Right? So Tesla already exceeded Toyota's market capital only within 10 years. Right? A lot of Japanese professors like to proud, right, to say Toyota production system, right? Toyota way. However, in market value, if you look at this, within 10 years, these things happen. So now traditional business model, right, is replaced by new business model. But I'm not saying everyone has to shift to new business model. I'm not saying. Right? Still, some of the core will remain within old model. Right? but we have to be aware of the speed of change, right? So the point as an executive is how to survive in a turbulent environment, right? So in order for us to survive in the turbulent environment, what we need to do is we need to understand the environment in two ways. One is environmental factors, and the other one is strategic variables. I have 3 more minutes, so I'm gonna finish with this, right? So first one, we have to understand the environment in which business operates, where we live, right? And we cannot change those environments by ourselves, right? Like globalization, I don't like globalization, so I don't want. This is what we cannot say, right? Globalization is already there, right? We cannot change. COVID-19, I don't want, but still we cannot change. Right? This kind of things is environmental factors. So we have to take it as is, right? But within that environment, we have to survive, right? We don't like that wave, right? But still, we have to survive in the ship, right? If you remember that picture. So what we can do within given context, given environment, this is what we call strategic variables. This is our choice, right? Environmental factor is fact, right? Fact which we cannot change. But within given fact, what kind of choice we are going to take? This is what we call strategic variable. And how to change ourselves to ideal forms. This is how to do. And then we have to think where to go, why firms does exist, purpose, values, and being. These things are important. So first, as is, in order for us to understand current situation, this is what hypothesis model provided you. Environmental analysis. This is for us to understand as is. And where we want to go, this is wish to be, right? But there is a gap, right? We have to fill in those gaps, but we cannot miss our value axis. So we have to fill those gaps between as is, to be, wish to be. And how we are going to choose the way is strategic variables, which is your job, right? And we have to translate our thought into action, right? So this is what we have studied, right? Hypothesis analysis is this yellow part, okay? And then, right, environmental analysis, not only external analysis, but also we need to focus on internal environment, right? So principle of Lego, right? In our case, right, we identify the competitors and the customers, like that way. I'm not going to explain one by one, right? So I think I promised with you, I'm gonna finish, right? 10:30, right? So tomorrow, right, it's too fast for me to explain, right? So I will come back here, right? 4 more slides, right? And then we're gonna move the wrap-up session tomorrow, okay? But today, as I promised, right, I tried to finish on time. Okay, so last 4 slides, right, it was not enough for you to digest, right? So tomorrow, when you are still fresh, right, for first 30 minutes, I'm gonna explain the most important part. Okay. Okay. So actually, this